Roald Dahl, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The first English edition was published by George Allen and Unwin in November 1967. This was the month when I started to work for George Allen and Unwin, and initially I found myself working for a couple of weeks in the head office in Museum Street. At that time, Museum Street also had a trade counter, and they would keep stock which would mainly be able to supply to London booksellers. My memory of this particular book is quite marked because foils, who at that time were absolutely massive in London, they're still very big, but I mean they were actually considered to be the biggest bookshop in the world, I think. And I found myself involved in actually being part of the delivery team, which was taking copies of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory into foils. This was a daily operation, sometimes more. I mean, more than once a day. I mean, literally hundreds of copies. So you can imagine metropolitanly, the London bookshops, and presumably everywhere else in the UK, this was a massively successful book. Roald Dahl went on to publish several other books for Allen and Unwin, and then, in fact, I'm not quite sure why, he found a new publisher. It was a very innovative book in many ways. I mean, the book design was pretty unique, actually, and maybe on its own at that time. I'm pretty certain it was. I was pretty familiar with book design. It was laminated boards with a very high gloss finish and illustrated cover. There was absolutely no question of a dust jacket. It was a kind of design which, I think kids in particular really, really loved. And obviously the story itself, as we all know what happened in terms of the way on its publishing history, and of course made into a movie and etc., etc. But it was an innovative book in many, many ways. It's quite the one exception to this favourable appraisal, to my knowledge anyway, was the guy who in fact was responsible for bookselling and visiting booksellers in the north of England, a man called Archie Chown. He'd worked for Allen and Unwin since before the Second World War, and his arrangement, financial employment-wise, with Allen and Unwin, I think he received a small amount of money, but most of his money came on a commission basis, which, he was a very well-known publisher, and he was a very, very dedicated, I mean really dedicated individual in terms of his job and knowledge of the books, etc. So he did pretty well in terms of recompense. But you can imagine that after World War II, with the expansion and the actual boom in the end of the book trade, that he was making serious amounts of money. I remember visiting his house once. He lived in Southport, and lived in some style, I can tell you. I remember he was a great collector of books on flowers and was very much involved in the Southport Flower Show. Exactly why he disapproved of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I'm not quite sure. Whether it was content or the design. I suspect it might have been the design. A bit of a shock for someone who'd been used to this kind of almost ubiquitous design features of published books up until that point in time. So that really was my involvement initially with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and ultimately with all the other books, James and the Giant Peach, etc., that Allen and Unwin published. So probably after Tolkien, he was probably one of the most best-selling authors. So he was a notable man, a notable author, and much valued by George Allen and Unwin. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please subscribe.